Company presents the Transformation Zone, another adventure into that place of mystery and change. Today, he threw himself on the grenade and he did it for me. Wow. And some other thoughts for a Memorial Day commemoration and maybe celebration. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stan for a Memorial Day little bit of musing time. I oftentimes do this because I remember Memorial Days when they were always on May 31st. They weren't designed for a 3-day weekend. They were a day, whatever it was, of the week, that we took the day off. And oftentimes we had a big parade in the small city where I grew up, and many of us would get our bicycles put together with crepe paper and flags, and there would be a parade of veterans and bands and a number of other community groups, and we'd follow along in our bicycles as the parade waned on through town, and then landed up at the cemetery, particularly in the spot where veterans had been put to rest. And this was oftentimes, of course, those from World War II and the Korean War, and of course, the First World War. And there they would have a ceremony. Then they would fire a 21-gun salute, and then the bugler would play taps. And then, of course, as soon as that was done, us kids would scramble to pick up the shells from the 21-gun salute, and that would be our little Memorial Day souvenir. And then after that, we would go back, and in the afternoon, we'd probably take some time to do some summer celebrating. But it wasn't a full weekend off. It was a very special day. And particularly because there were so many veterans and there were so many families that had suffered losses as a result of the Korea and the Second World War particularly. And so it was a time of a real thoughtfulness about what it meant to pay the ultimate price, the sacrifice. Well, I have a story about the ultimate sacrifice, and it's a bit of a transformation story. But I remember also one of the Memorial Days many years ago when I had made the decision that I was going to leave the teaching profession and get involved in international mission radio and become a broadcaster. I remember that that Memorial Day of the final about a year and a half, where I went to school after teaching school the full day, and then I would go and spend 4 hours every night for 4 days a week to learn how to be a professional broadcaster. And I remember that all of a sudden it came up to the Memorial Day service. Are we going to have school on Memorial Day? And the director of the school came in and said, no, we will not be having class this Memorial Day. And we were grateful. And then he said this. He said, I want you to remember now that this will be your last holiday of your career. You will get no more holidays off. And then he said this, remember, radio is on every day. And the only time you will have a holiday off, if that just happens to fall on your day off. Other than that, you will be on the radio. Christmas, New Year's, whatever, Memorial Day. And you know what? He was right. That was the case. Now, of course, they don't do that as much anymore. If you're kind of an A-line broadcaster, you'll redo some of your own programs, or kind of the B squad or the second stringers will come in and do the programming. But I always remembered that because he said, remember, your listener is very important. And this is a very special day for them. And you should be on the radio talking to them, and maybe even reminding them about the meaning of every holiday. So no, now that you're in the radio business, you don't get any more days off. You work every day. The radio station is on, and it's your turn in your town, and your shift, you're on. And that's the way it was. So I would like to be on from the on this Memorial Day because I do have a memory that I think might be important in terms of transformation. Uh, I remember, well, this was not many years ago, but a few years ago, when I had heard of a gentleman named Brennan Manning, who was an incredible uh, man of faith, a wonderful speaker, had oftentimes drawn audiences that were thrilled by his conversations and his teaching. And so I had arranged. I had reached out, and I was working as a kind of volunteer, half-time volunteer work in our church, and I had very much uh, been able to make contact with his team, his people, and we had agreed, and he was going to come and do a series of meetings at our church. And so I was eager when it was arranged for me to go pick him up. And so a couple things happened on the way that I picked him up. And I said, good to meet you, Mr. Manning, Brennan. And he then, as we were driving through, he said, my real name isn't Brennan. And I said, oh, no, I didn't know that. Well, he said, this is kind of I might talk about it, but no, that's not my real name. And I said, well, what's the story? Or what? He said, well, I won't tell you what my real name is, but you have to remember that I was in the Korean War, and it was a terrible, terrible day of combat. And someone from the enemy threw a grenade into our foxhole trench, or whatever we were, and we waited. And my friend dove right on top and laid on the grenade as it went off. And of course, he took the blow of the grenade and it killed him. And as a result of it killing him, it didn't wound or kill the other two or three of us on location. He not only died for his country, he died for me. Boy, the ultimate sacrifice. No greater love is this than a man lay down his life for his friends. And he said, that has changed me, of course. But then he went on to reveal that in many ways that had deeply affected him, because as he lived life, he lived with almost a sense of guilt that I have to live up to. He died for me. And so, and he said, that's why I probably got into some trouble. And he said, the guilt and anxiety of that struck me. And he said, unfortunately, I fell into the depths of alcoholism. And he said, it was terrible. And then he said to me, Stan, do you know anybody in AA? And I said, well, I'm not in AA myself, but yeah, I do. And he said, give me their name. Because I need to always know that somebody from AA I can reach out to. Well, he said, well, I'll ask my friend. His name is Chuck, and if he agrees, that'll be fine. He looked at me and said, Chuck will agree. If he's in AA, he will agree that I can, if I need help any time, night or day, I can call Chuck. Well, and so I, okay, and I said, I'll get you his name and his number. He said, do so right away, please. Well, I did call Chuck, and he affirmed exactly what Brennan had said. He said, absolutely, Stan. You give him my phone number, and of course, anytime, I will come. That's what we do. Because we've all been transformed. Well, I thought, think of the transformation that went into his life when someone saved his life, what a transformation is. But the downside of that was some of the expectations that came into his life. And then, of course, he was delivered through AA from the dread of alcoholism and the despair. And he told me some terrible stories about what had happened to him in his alcoholism. And then but he still needed the affirmation of transformation. So I just want to share that with you because remember, we are now in a time of transitions in so many things. But we always need to remember that this is why Joe and Kevin and a number of us are putting together the transformation zone, is because this is the time where we have to take the issue not just of change, not just of doing better, not just of improving, but of the power and the necessity of transformation. And we'll be telling, hopefully, many stories of transformation, perhaps ideas and thoughts on how you can help and guide and lead people who truly want to be transformed in their lives, and ways that we can stretch ourselves in many ways so that we can not only be people who help transformations, we can live transformed lives. And by living those lives, and like Brennan did, telling the stories of how our transformation had taken place, as he pointed out, what has happened is that through his life, he is very, very humble and yet very graced, that as he has lived his life of speaking and teaching about God and spirit and faith and alcoholism, that he has been the instrument in at least one of the ways that some people have fully lived transformed lives, physically, emotionally, spiritually, in every way. He said, and remember, and this again is one of our fundamental themes, that transformation, oftentimes you have to give up something to get something. In fact, when it comes to transformation, you usually do have to release something or give up something to receive and get something as worthy as a powerful transformation in your life. And he said, there's been a lot of pain in my life. And pain is oftentimes, no gain unless there was pain. No pain, no gain. Gaining transformation. And so at this Memorial Day, we remember the ultimate sacrifice. We remember people who actually did participate in transformations and how they lived their lives and how they paid the ultimate sacrifice. No greater love is this than someone lays down their life, gives up everything, chooses to serve others in such a way that their lives are saved, their lives are transformed, and that goodness and grace comes into the lives of us all. There we go. Just some musings from an older man who's now an old man as I approach this year of real transformation. And I trust this has been helpful to you. We are trying to help people through many years of coaching and broadcasting and helping people who want to bring transformation into their lives. I had a friend the other day who simply said, one of the nice things, Stan, about getting really old is we realize that, we wouldn't have gotten this old if we were stupid. We wouldn't have made it. So maybe we have wisdom to share that might be helpful and useful to others. And I think that's what we're called to do. Our encore in life may be to not only share the stories of our own transformation, but to help others enjoy the gain and the growth and the deep change, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, career-wise, for others and for themselves as we go into the transformation zone. All the best. Um, Summer is upon us here in North America, and that's a time for some thought, some rest, recreation, vacation. But maybe it's also a summer of transformation. Just let that sit on your head for a while. Till next time, bye for now.